talking about. I don't know you. So we don't want to ever hear that. I'm praying everyone here knows the Lord, and we'll never hear those words. Everyone must know who Jessica McClure is, right? Anyone know who Jessica McClure is? How about baby Jessica? Does anyone remember baby Jessica? Well, not a lot. So baby Jessica was one of the most famous people in the whole world in 1984. She fell into a well when she was 18 months old.
I remember.
She fell 22 feet down a casing about, I guess, 12 inches, a well casing. And that was a crisis. And for 2.5 days, the whole world was on hold, waiting to see if baby Jessica would be saved, if she would be okay. At that point, you can believe that her parents and her loved ones, nothing else in the world was more important than baby Jessica's life. I mean, nothing. The whole world stopped. Their politics stopped. Their disagreements with their friends stopped. The need for the car to have a car wash stopped. The scratch in their car meant nothing. The only thing that really was of value was baby Jessica. And the team that came, I think it was 2.5 days. It was a really strategic, careful way to extract her. They had to drill down 22 feet or further, and without the well collapsing, they were pouring oxygen in there. This was a very skilled team of workers, and they didn't want somebody fumbling around there trying to rescue baby Jessica. They wanted the best. They wanted an elite team, because mistakes can be made and cost people their lives. And baby Jessica's life was just too important. I was just thinking about, maybe you've had this experience if you got kids, grandkids, you're in the park playing, all of a sudden you can't see one's missing, or you must have known someone who had that happen. The whole world stops. It stops until you know that person's okay. The whole world. Because people are that important when we remember that. Sometimes we forget just how important people are. Everybody in this room actually is a baby Jessica to somebody. I mean everybody. Everybody in the world is somebody's baby Jessica somewhere. And so if we could think of ourselves like that rescue team, do we want to be prepared to save lives, to be on the team that is doing everything they can and not lazy and slack? I mean, what if these guys weren't training who were going to extract this girl or what if these guys didn't train? Who needs that? Who cares? No, everybody cares. It's important. Life and death hang in the balance. And that's kind of what Buddy was saying. I don't know you. I don't want to get to heaven and see anybody that I met not there. I mean anybody. It would be the worst thing to say, hey, where's Joe? He didn't make it. I just can't imagine that day. So I want to be part of an elite team that is trained and knows what the heck they're doing out there. You want people, when they're trying to help a lost one, you want people who are pros, people who have expertise, people who are competent. I'm going to read a verse here. It's in 2 Timothy chapter 2. In a fancy home there are many vessels of gold and silver, and some of wood and clay. Some are for honorable use, others are for common use. So if anyone cleanses themselves of what is unfit, he is a vessel of honor, sanctified, useful to the master, prepared for every good work. That should be us. When we are fit for duty for God. He wants us fit for duty. God takes us as we are. We got lots of problems. We know that. But God is not here to say, hey, I'm done with you. You're saved. Take it easy. Just believe in me. Take it easy. God wants to transform our lives so that we are fit for duty. Bikers for Christ, we can all look like a biker. We can probably all act like a biker and pull that off. Can we pull off Jesus? Can we look and act like Christ? Because really what a Christian is I'm carrying Jesus in me. People should recognize who we are. Amen. When we ride up and we hang out or we meet anyone in our life, they should be seeing Jesus in us. It's no longer I who live, but Jesus in us. That's who we should be. So when we're riding and they see biker, okay, I get that. Do they see Jesus? Yeah. That's fit for duty. We got to be fit for duty. James 1 says, if anyone considers himself religious and yet does not bridle his tongue, he deceives his heart and his religion is in vain. Now, I want to just focus on that tongue. I've learned, I'm probably the oldest guy here in this room, maybe with the exception of whom I'm going to pick here. Dan Wilson. He's way older than me. Actually, he's younger. But I've learned stuff. I've been a believer since I was 20-some years old, 23, 24. So I've been a believer longer than not. And I'm still trying to figure this stuff out. It's amazing. I was like, gee, what a lesson for me to learn. Here I am, way up there. But anyway, if anyone considers himself religious and yet does not bridle his tongue. So I want to go into that, a little bit about the tongue. I was at a bike ride. We have a weekly ride. And this goes back 20-some years I was at this. And I was riding with a group called Christian Motorcycle Association. Now, I wasn't wearing a patch or anything, but this fella comes up to me and a buddy of mine, he says, hey, you see that jerk over there with the CMA patch? What a phony. That guy's got the worst potty mouth I've ever heard. That guy's a fake. Now, I knew the guy he's talking about. That guy didn't have a potty mouth. That guy wasn't a fake. That guy was the real deal. A great friend and a great representative. And so the guy with me said, that's my brother-in-law. I've never heard him swear once in my life. Guy turned around, got on his bike, never rode with us again. He made that story up. I don't know why. But the point I want to make was, he was trying to discredit that guy by saying, what a potty mouth. The words we speak, our tongue, says so much about us. Just everything. I mean, we can use, the world knows that if you're a believer and you say, I'm a biker for Christ, so then you're like Jesus, right? You're his followers. Followers means we're following him. We're acting on what he says. We're behaving like him. He's the coach. We're the people. Do this, we will. Do that, we will. And they know that if your mouth speaks trash and it's potty mouth, you're discredited. They discredit you. The world does. So how much higher should our standards be? They should be higher than the world's standards. We don't even want to. I live in biker culture. I know lots of bikers. I know lots of people. They like to get as close to the edge as they can sometimes with how their tongue speaks. We don't want to get as close to the edge. We want to get far from the edge and be safe. I'm just saying that because I've been learning about the tongue. Today, we are inundated with social media, podcasts, YouTube. People are obsessed and they scroll and they got to hear the next great thing, and there's some very popular Christian podcasters. I had a friend go for lunch with me the other day. He said, oh, you should listen to such and such. I'd never heard of the guy before. He says he's a lot like me, really rough around the edges, but he's a fantastic Christian. He's got the greatest answers. I turned on his video, and about 8 F-bombs later, I thought, and this was within 3 minutes. I thought, well, I'm not going to listen to that guy. I'm thinking, this is what I'm talking about. You just discredited yourself. And for me, it's like, okay, whatever. I'm not here to tell this guy how to talk. But I'm telling you, the world, my buddy liked him because he loves to be raunchy. He loves this guy. We're not to be that way. This is James 3, for we all stumble in many things. If anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a mature man, able to bridle his whole body. Just think about that. If I can control my tongue, and I don't stumble in that, and how I communicate, and how I speak about people, and how I go about my day, it says I'm a mature man, and not only that, if I can bridle that tongue, if I can control that, it says I'm able to bridle my whole body. Your whole Christian walk will hinge on how you speak, on what this thing says. Your whole Christian walk, your maturity, the influence, it will hinge on that, on your tongue. I thought that was amazing. We need to have God controlling our tongues. We need him. And when it says here, I read this, and I jump all around this, and I told my wife I should never write notes. I never follow them. I should write bullet points, but every time I do, I think, I'm going to forget what to say. James 1, again here. My beloved brothers and sisters, understand this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. So every one of us should be slow to speak. And I started thinking about that, and I was doing a men's group, and I was just telling them, think about how much your world would change if you would just be slow to speak for a minute. Have you ever been in an argument with your mate? Or has your mate ever said something that it got your, just got your guile there and you wanted to say something back? Imagine if you didn't do that. Maybe you did something and your mate said something that offended you. And instead of snapping back saying something nasty, you just said something kind, or just sorry, or just nothing at all. Have you ever had those disagreements with people in the world that you burn at night with an ache in your heart, or your head's burning because you don't feel right because you said something, or you're laying in bed and you're tormented because you've spoken words that are unkind to people you love, or you're offended by what people say? Imagine how much the world would change if any time someone said something offensive, you were slow to speak. And here's the key, I think, why slow to speak? What does that do? It gives me a second or two to pause and acknowledge God before I open my mouth. Acknowledge God before I open my mouth. How does God want me to speak? So when I'm slow to speak, it's like, ooh, that hurt. Maybe I want to cuss someone out. But if I stop and say, God, how does a Christian communicate? How do you communicate? You communicate with kindness. You answer back with patience. You bless instead of curse. But if I was slow to speak, I could remember that. And when someone offends us and our temper gets up, boom, we usually answer right away. But man, could you change your environment at work, your relationship with your friends, with your wife? I've seen how damaging the tongue can be. It can destroy families just with one word. I knew a man, I didn't know him personally, I knew of him. I lived in Kamloops, BC, and his daughter lived with her mother and shared custody with him. He was a doctor, so they had a daughter who was 11 or 12. They shared custody. And the mother didn't want to share custody, and she took him to court, and the daughter testified that he had abused her sexually. It was maybe a month later, he committed suicide. The sickening thing is when the daughter got older, she confessed that her mother talked her into making that up so that she wouldn't have to go with him. She'd made that story up, but that's how powerful words are. And it was enough to kill him that she said what would be the most painful thing you could say to a father? It couldn't hurt more. But I see that in many, many families. Just someone says the wrong word or just says a comment, families break apart. People won't talk to their parents again. God forbid. God forbid we don't just be slow to speak and let Jesus speak into our lives before we open our mouths. So I guess I don't have a whole lot more I can add from that. I did have some verses. Make sure I don't miss any. They're wonderful verses. I remember, this is the one that I tell everyone you should memorize. Everyone probably has Psalm 141 verse 3 memorized anyway, right? It says, set a guard over my house, over my mouth, Lord. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Set a guard over my mouth, Lord. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Everything we say will make a difference. Everything we say. And so, be slow to speak. Next time you're out riding and someone says something that offends you, or you want to say something that you think, is that how Jesus would talk? Because that's who you are. You're Christ to them. And does Jesus go around dropping F-bombs? Not just using F-bombs, you can start gossiping. I mean, what's more brutal than gossiping about somebody? We're here to bless, not curse. I find it amazing that podcasters now, coming in the name of Jesus, I mean, they belittle and mock and scorn people who are of a different, maybe, political persuasion, or, we're all struggling. This world's a meat grinder. And we know what God's standards are. Christians don't, we're not going to run around compromise. We're not going to approve anything, but we're going to be careful, because no matter what these people are going through, they are someone's baby Jessica. And they may be caught up in the junk of this world, and it is absolutely messed them till they can barely even think straight. But what do we want to bring? We want to bring God to them. We want to bring His word. his kindness, his gentleness, his patience, his self-control, his speech. Let your mouth be one that blesses, not curses, in everything you do. And when you're talking politics with people, I don't need to open up my mouth. There's enough people yakking about politics and fighting about politics. I just don't, it's not even my fight. You know, the world's going to be what it is. I remember everyone was worried about Justin Trudeau. You know, anyone I sat and had coffee with, 90% of them were super right-wing, and they hated Justin. And they were Christians speaking like, I want to see that guy swing on a rope. This is Justin Trudeau. We don't want him. I don't want to see him not in eternity. I mean that. I go to heaven with Justin Trudeau. Well, he was the one, I don't know you. We don't want that. Justin Trudeau needs help. His dad needed help. His dad's gone. His day's come and gone. You know, and if Justin came in here today, I'm just using him, Mark Carney, whoever you are, I don't know if you're political, maybe it's Donald Trump who comes, whoever comes in here, and what do you feel about people like that? Like, do you think, what if Justin came in and would you want to share the gospel with him? Would you want to gather around and pray him? Would you want to see him redeemed? Of course we would. So we got to live life like that. We got to speak every word with care and concern about all we meet. Slow to speak. Before you open your mouth in your day-to-day at work, politics, it doesn't matter. Connect with God. Just gives you a second to connect with God. Read your word. We know how our speech is supposed to be. We know we're not supposed to be those who talk vile and foul and coarse. It says that. It tells us over and over again. We got to bless. And so anyway, I want to encourage you for that. Thank you, Paul. Psalm 141, verse 3. Set a guard over my mouth, Lord. Keep watch over the door of my lips. You'd do well to memorize that. We all would. And bless you all.